On December 23, 1981, in Guantanamo, Cuba, a future champion was born, Yuriorkis Gamboa. Gamboa was a regular kid in Cuba before wanting to become a boxer. He adapted to the sport quickly, doing so well that he didn't just become an Olympian, but ended up winning a gold medal. Gamboa had aspirations to become a professional boxer, but in communist Cuba, that feat is extremely difficult and is actually illegal in the country. So Gamboa took extreme measures, sneaking out of the country with his fellow Cuban national teammates Yan Barthelemy and Odilanier Solis while in training camp in Venezuela. He reached Colombia, Miami, and Germany. And speaking of Germany, Yuriorkis Gamboa made his professional debut on April 27, 2007 in Hamburg, Germany, defeating Alexin Manvelian by unanimous decision. Gamboa built up a 6-0 record before having his first fight in America, taking on Brazilian Adelton de Jesus in Hollywood, Florida. Gamboa TKO'd de Jesus in 6 rounds. However, we saw early glimpses of Gamboa's poor chin as he was dropped in the 4th round. Gamboa kept his momentum going before having his first scheduled 10-rounder, taking on unknown Dominican Darling Jimenez. Gamboa outclassed Jimenez, but once again was floored in the 4th round. Gamboa won by unanimous decision. On October 4, 2008, Gamboa took on fellow undefeated prospect Marcos Ramirez. Gamboa was in trouble early, getting dropped once again, this time in the 1st round. But he showed his class, rising up, continuing, and dropping Ramirez twice in the 2nd round, and getting the TKO victory. Gamboa was aiming to become a world champion and decided to go the WBA route. He took on Venezuela's Jose Rojas for the WBA interim belt. Rojas just got defeated by Indonesian legend Chris John by a competitive decision. He wasn't a pushover, but Gamboa made him look average, outclassing Rojas before stopping him in the 10th round in a one-sided victory. Gamboa will continue fighting in WBA eliminators, stopping Panama's Weiber Garcia and winning the WBA regular title. On March 27, 2010, Gamboa would fight for his first real title, taking on Argentina's Jonathan Barros and Gamboa's former home, Germany. Gamboa would go on to outbox and drop Barros to a comfortable unanimous decision. 5 months later, Gamboa would unify Mexican legend Orlando Salido for the WBA and vacant IBF featherweight titles. Gamboa came out strong, outworking and pushing back Salido with flurries, but a Mexican veteran wasn't going to back down easily, landing clean counters and body shots in return. In round 8, when the fight was seemingly in Gamboa's control and Gamboa was landing flurries on Salido, Gamboa got clipped with a perfect right hook on the chin that put him on the canvas. Gamboa recovered, but he realized that Salido wasn't backing down. Because of this, Gamboa fought more relentlessly, and it paid off, hurting and dropping Salido twice in round 12. However, accidentally hitting Salido while he was down, making him have 2 points deducted. Nevertheless, Gamboa won by unanimous decision, making him a unified champion. Gamboa returned 6 months later, taking on veteran Jorge Solis. Unfortunately for Gamboa, he was stripped of his IBF title for skipping the mandatory re-weigh-in. Gamboa obliterated Solis, dropping him 5 times en route to a 4th round stoppage victory. After this win, Gamboa was stripped of his WBA title for unknown reasons. Gamboa returned 5 months later, taking on another Mexican veteran, 41-3 Daniel Ponce de Leon. Gamboa outboxed and outworked de Leon throughout the fight before an unfortunate headbutt caused a cut on de Leon's forehead. They went to the scorecards and Gamboa was declared the winner by a wide technical decision. Gamboa is currently at the prime of his career. He's 21-0 with 16 KOs, he's 30 years old, and he decides to be promoted by 50 Cent's SMS Promotions. His first fight under this banner is against undefeated contender Michael Farinas. Gamboa proved that even though Farinas was a solid fighter, he wasn't on Gamboa's level, getting the unanimous decision victory and dropping Farinas twice. Even though Gamboa, as usual, was dropped once himself. Gamboa moved up in weight and returned to the ring 6 months later, taking on undefeated Darles Perez. It looked like a regular Yuriorkis Gamboa performance early, as he looked explosive and dropped Perez in round 1. But bizarrely, the fight ended up being a snooze fest, with neither fighter committing. Gamboa received a decision victory, but it was a disappointing performance from the Cuban. Gamboa was put on the shelf for a whole year by SMS Promotions before returning to the ring. It was apparent that Gamboa was having issues with his new promotional company. Gamboa took on rising star, WBO champion Terence Crawford. Gamboa's career is losing momentum. A win against someone such as Crawford can change everything for him. It was an amazing fight, one of Gamboa's most entertaining. He started strong. His speed, reflexes, and athleticism were all giving Crawford fits early. Crawford eventually adjusted to Gamboa and started to pick him apart. Gamboa was put on the canvas in round 5. Crawford was gaining more and more momentum. He put Gamboa down again, this time in round 8. Gamboa showed lots of heart, even hurting Crawford, but was broken down, dropped twice more, and stopped in the 9th round. Gamboa has taken his first professional defeat. Gamboa returned 5 months later in Mexico, TKOing unknown Joel Zurita in 6 rounds. Gamboa once again took a year off due to SMS promotions, being out of the ring for another whole year before taking on fringe contender Hylon Williams. Gamboa won by unimpressive unanimous decision. At this point, Gamboa is begging to be freed from SMS. He is claiming that they owe him money, with 50 Cent obviously denying those allegations, and Gamboa pleading with 50 Cent to be free from the company. They had a lawsuit, and unfortunately for Gamboa, 50 Cent won, making the contract still valid. After 16 months out of the ring, Gamboa resumed his career, taking on Rene Alvarado. Alvarado was by far his best opponent since Crawford. Gamboa, even with his reflexes slowing, was unable to fend off Alvarado to a unanimous decision victory, even though he was dropped in the 10th round. Gamboa wasted no time after this victory, rushing back into the ring 2 months later, fighting Robinson Castellanos. Gamboa took round 1, but wasn't separating himself. Castellanos fought in stride and ended up dropping Gamboa in rounds 2 and 3. He continued to press the Cuban, and after 7 rounds, Gamboa's corner waved the fight off. Gamboa came back once again and took on unproven Alexis Reyes. Gamboa struggled. Reyes was nothing special, and Gamboa a few years ago would have taken on Reyes in a few rounds. But this version of Gamboa is struggling. The referee, Cestelino Castro, deducted 3 points from Gamboa in this fight, in round 5 for swinging the clinch, in round 8 for coming in with his head, and in round 9 for hitting on the break. Still, Gamboa was awarded the majority decision victory. 4 months later, Gamboa took on solid contender Jason Sosa. This wasn't expected to be an easy fight for Gamboa, and it definitely wasn't. To keep this story short, Gamboa won a very controversial and disputed decision. Gamboa was dropped in round 7 and lost a point in round 10 for holding. Another year has passed. Gamboa is now taking on Miguel Beltran. Beltran has been in the ring with plenty of elite fighters and was expected to be a solid opponent. Gamboa had an underrated performance, dropping Beltran early and winning a wide decision. The PBC have interest in Gamboa. They want their up-and-coming young star Gervonta Davis to fight him. They decided to put Gamboa on the co-main event of Davis's fight against Ricardo Nunez. Gamboa fought a fellow washed-up fighter, Puerto Rico's Rocky Martinez. Gamboa shocked a lot of people, demolishing Durable Martinez quicker than anyone else in only 2 rounds. Davis also stopped Nunez, and the PBC were ready to sacrifice Gamboa's career and put him in with Tank Davis. On December 28th, Davis vs. Gamboa was set. Davis came out strong, dropping Gamboa in the 2nd round, and Gamboa in the process badly hurt his ankle. Davis battered Gamboa throughout the whole fight, hurting him constantly before dropping the Cuban in round 8. The Warrior Gamboa continued fighting on before getting hurt multiple more times, getting dropped in round 12, and the ref waving it off. Gamboa fought bravely and showed true heart, but was used as a sacrificial lamb. Eddie Hearn and the Zone saw how well it worked out for the PBC when they used Gamboa to push an up-and-coming fighter, and decided to give it a try, putting him in with WBC lightweight champion Devin Haney. Once again, Gamboa didn't make his opponent look exceptional, but was outclassed to a very wide decision. Showtime wanted to use Gamboa again, so they scheduled him to fight Chris Colbert in July of 2021, but Gamboa ended up injuring his rib and heel, having to pull out of the fight. Showtime didn't give up, offering Gamboa plenty of money once more to take on Pitbull Isaac Cruz. Gamboa agreed and got viciously stopped in 5 rounds. Throughout Gamboa's career, Gamboa was exploited by promoters and big networks in one way or another. He was a phenomenal fighter and could have had a tremendous career, but greed from top people around him heavily tampered it.